Okay, so I just kind of have a piece. I just have a piece of drywall here that we'll use for kind of our example here. So what I did here is I kind of put a dent in the drywall to simulate. A lot of times, what you see is when you open a door, if the door handle constantly hits the drywall, it'll dent and kind of bang the drywall. And that's a super easy fix. So I'm just going to show you some basic things that we can do. First off, this right here. This is just to help. You can get this it doesn't have to be this one, but there are similar items that you can get. Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot, True Value, any hardware store, your local hardware shop. This kind of spackle here it's just white. This one's kind of dry, but it's just white. And this is perfect for filling nail holes if you're pulling pictures down, you know, just things like that. Smaller holes, smaller items. For something that's maybe a little bit bigger, you can just get like a joint compound. This is just an example of one. There's a lot of them. Again, all those hardware stores or Walmart or whatever will carry stuff like this. And this is perfect for filling, fixing holes like this. So as you can see, I put some of that joint compound in here. This is a little more you're going to need, but you can just get a small. Doesn't have to be this big of a knife, but you can get a smaller knife that's maybe a couple inches thick. And wherever you get the joint compound, they'll have all the tools right there for you. And if you can't find them when you're in the hardware shop, just ask somebody, tell them what you need, and they'll get you all set up. Okay, so if you just kind of fill it in the hole, go back and forth over it a couple times, make sure it's in that hole real good. It'll fill in that hole. It'll take some time to dry. And if you kind of look at this one a little bit, it's a little bit rough, so it's going to take a couple coats to get it in there. Let it dry, put another coat on it, just like I was doing there. And once it dries, you're going to need to sand it a little bit. They have these little they're kind of little foam sanders, but they're rough just like sandpaper. You can get that, go over it to sand it. You don't want to dig into it, you just want to make it flush with the drywall that's already there. Once you get done with that, once it's dried, then you can, and I'll show you here in a second how you can either texture it to match the wall, and then ultimately paint it so it matches. So that's a super easy fix right there for fixing smaller dents or holes. Going down to this one here, sometimes you might have something that damages the drywall to where you have to do a bigger fix. So as you can see, there was a hole here. I cut out a piece of drywall, and again, you can get small chunks. You don't have to get the big sheets, but you can get small pieces of drywall at your hardware shop. Cut something out that matches the existing hole that you're fixing. And you can get the joint tape. There's different colors, green, yellow. Some of them are like paper. The stuff that I'm using here, it actually is sticky on one side, wherever I can find it here. So it actually has adhesive on one side, so you can stretch it, stick it on there like tape, cut it to the size. And what this does is this helps the piece of drywall that you're putting in there helps hold it in place, and then ultimately it'll hold the joint compound that you're going to put in there. So again, I'll get this one is going to take a little bit longer because it is a bigger piece. Again, you get the joint compound, just get your knife, and you kind of go through it, go over it, and you're trying to get it to cover all the tape that you put on, and fill in that crack or the space that you were filling. Okay, so as you can see, you can still kind of see the tape, which is totally normal. It's completely okay, because you're going to have to do 2 to 3 coats of this to completely cover it. Okay, so just get a decent coat on it like that. And it's gonna be thick. You want it to be a little bit thick, and then you'll have to let it dry. It might take half hour, depending on what kind of joint compound you use. But as you can see already, it's starting to kind of cover everything up, what was broken or what was cracked, the hole there. After you put a second coat on, it will start to cover up all the little pieces of the tape, and then you'll probably need to put a third coat on it. And these are just super thin knives that you can kind of go back and forth, and you just kind of let the knife float over. You don't got to push too hard. Just kind of let the knife float over where you're fixing it. Okay, let it dry, put a second coat on, let it dry, put a third coat on. And then again, when it's completely dry, you're gonna go back, get this sanding block. You can use real light grit sandpaper if you need, but these blocks are, they're cheap and they're really good at doing that. Once everything dries, you'll just go over it real smooth, real lightly. So you want everything to be smooth and kind of blend in with the wall. And then after it's sanded and dried, then you can go to texture. So as you'll see, some of your walls might actually have a smooth texture on it. And then you really won't need to do anything. You'll just need to sand it to where it's smooth to match the wall, and then you can prime and paint it. A lot of you are gonna have some kind of texture on the wall that was sprayed. You can, again, when you're at the hardware shop, you can get these spray cans that are spray texture. So this is an orange peel, which is a very common, most of you, what you have on the texture you have on your walls is gonna be an orange peel style texture. You can buy these cans, just read the directions on them. You need to shake them up. What I would recommend you do is get a piece of cardboard, go outside and spray this on there, because you can dial in how thick of a texture you want to match what you have existing. So go outside, get it to match what you have, and then once you come in, shake it up, and then you'll see okay, so that's a little bit thicker of a texture, but you can dial it in, and that's why it's important to go outside, dial this nozzle in to get the right style. Even though there's air in there and it looks thick, once it starts to dry, it'll shrink up a little bit. So practice with this, but once you've matched the texture on your wall, after you've patched it, now you've textured it, let it dry, and then you can go to painting. One thing about painting, if you are renting a place, do not paint unless you have approval from the landlord or the owner, because once you move out, if they come in and say the wall was white, you painted it brown, they could charge you if they didn't authorize you to paint the walls. That could be something that either you have to paint before you move out, or they're going to charge you as part of your deposit. So now that it's textured and everything's ready to paint, we'll talk about a few different, we're not gonna paint just for the purpose of the time here, but it's important to note a few different things when you go to paint. Here are 3 different roller heads that have the heads themselves, the material that's on them, they're all different. So if you, for example, if you have a smooth textured wall, you're not gonna want, they call it the nap on the roller. That's how thick or the type of texture that's on the roller head itself. You don't want to, if you have like cabinets are smooth, you don't want to use a real heavy napped roller head, because it will actually roll a style of texture onto, and it just won't match the cabinets. This style is just a foam smooth roller head. This is the style that you would want to use if you're doing a door, a cabinet, something with a very smooth surface. Even if your walls have a smooth texture, you can use a roller like this, or you could use a roller like this that has a very low nap to it, and it's not a real thick head. So just make sure that you buy, you can get the right roller head to match the job. Make sure you get the right color paint. Most of the time, if you're renting, it's just going to be white, but just make sure that you match the paint, get the right materials, and then you can prime it and paint the area that you're fixing, and that should fix all of your problems and save you. I know it seems like a lot of work, but it actually goes pretty quick. As you can see, what's going to take a while is just waiting for stuff to dry. But it save you a lot of money before you move out, so you're not losing your deposit. Any other questions, reach out to the foundation. We'll have some sessions that you can ask questions this week when we're together, and there are resources that Scooter is putting on your information that he's emailing to you in your packet. So just take a look at all that, and if you have some questions, feel free to ask me when we're together this week.